Welcome to the X Factor. I'm your host, Charles Epstein. With more than 25 years of experience as a management side employment and labor attorney, Jon Hyman, today's esteemed guest. By the way, John, I will take that in Bitcoin.
We'll see how esteemed I am by the end of the episode.
Yes, well, I'm raising the bar, and I am pretty confident you're going to be able to comfortably clear it. Anyway, Jon helps businesses strategically, proactively, and reactively solve their workforce problems. As the leader of the Employment and Labor Practice Group at Wickens Herzer Panza, Jon provides practical and strategic advice on a wide range of employment and labor law issues, such as discrimination, harassment, retaliation, wage and hour, leave and accommodations, workplace safety, workplace technology, and union relations, both pre-claim and in litigation. He also founded and leads the Craft Beer Practice Group at WHP, where he assists brewers, brew pubs, restaurants, and other businesses in the craft beer industry sample their wares. Kidding. He helps with their unique business, legal, and regulatory challenges, and also samples their wares.
I'm not going to lie, sampling the wares is a nice side benefit of the beer practice.
I would assume so. But we'll get to that momentarily. Jon joins us today from Cleveland. Hey, Jon, nice to see you.
It's good to see you, too. It's been a while.
It has been. So let's begin with the question I know our listeners most want to hear. What exactly do you do in your craft beer practice, Jon? What are the specialized legal guidance and services that craft brewers need?
You know, I'm outside general counsel for craft breweries, and they need a lot of help. It's a really interesting industry to work in and to play in, because most of the people that are running breweries have a lot of beer knowledge and not a lot of business knowledge and not a lot of legal knowledge. And they're now operating in this it's alcohol. It's a highly regulated industry. So they're really good at beer and, for the most part, not great on the business side. And so I help them on the business side. We'll, get their corporation, organized and filed with the state. We'll get them their licenses. We'll help them with their tax filings. For me, the easy entry point is the employment side, because the breweries have employees, and that's an easy point of entry for me. But we're really offering the full kind of suite of legal services as kind of outside general counsel for these breweries, doing everything from organizing to, taxes to, alcohol regulations to real estate to getting their trademarks filed, and the like. So it's kind of top to bottom legal solution for businesses in the craft beer industry.
Okay, great. Yeah, after this podcast, you're going to have to give me some recommendations.
Absolutely.
Some esoteric, exotic craft beers I need to sample. So I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So moving on. Let me ask you, Jon, as AI becomes more ubiquitous in today's workforce, using everything from hiring to coding to marketing, are more organizations asking you to help them develop an AI governance strategy? Has that become a more integral part of your work over the past, year or so?
Not as much as it should be. I think businesses are largely taking, at least the small to mid-sized businesses that I typically work with and represent in my practice, are taking more of I think, kind of a sit back and wait and see approach to AI. I can speak from, my own business. I mean, we're even, I think, a little late to the game on trying to get our hands around kind of what this means for us as a business that has, professionals that are using AI to assist them in their legal practices. So I would like to say, yes, it's a nice little cottage industry of me pumping out AI policies for businesses, but I think in the kind of small to mid cap space that I play in, it's been a little more wait and see than I would probably like or recommend.
But having said that, I'm sure you've thought through all of the
I've thought about it.
ramifications?
I've thought about it a ton, and I've thought about it a ton, both from kind of what does it mean for my clients, but then what does it mean for me as a business owner too, right? Like I'm a shareholder in a law firm, and what does that mean for me in my practice? What does it mean for the people that I work with and that work for me? And what does it mean for our business as a whole? I think, any business that has particularly aspects of the business that can be commoditized, like I write employee handbooks or I draft employment policies, all of which AI, can do to some degree now, but I think 6 months from now is going to be able to do it a whole lot better. Again, what does that mean for me in my practice? And as a lawyer, like I have ethical obligations too. And what does that look like from from a legal ethics standpoint when we start using AI to do things? And there's lawyers that have done it really wrong and have gotten in trouble for it, with courts, for, using ChatGPT instead of
Yes.
Lexis or Westlaw to do the legal research. And then they file briefs with cases that ChatGPT just made up. In the AI world, they're called hallucinations, like things that don't exist. But the AI thinks they exist, so it gives it to you as facts. And then the lawyers don't do what they should have done. And it's okay to use ChatGPT for research. It's not good to file a brief with a court without vetting the research as valid.
Yes.
And then, and then they get in trouble for it. So I've thought a lot about, and I've written, I made it sound like I haven't done a single AI policy. I've written AI policies for businesses. It's not like I'm coming at this without a base of knowledge, but I've thought a ton about what it means, both for my clients in the employment law, HR space, and then what it means kind of for me as someone that owns a piece of the business I work at.
What is the process of evaluating AI risk? Is there a blueprint?
Not yet. It's kind of like the wild, wild west at this point. We're all kind of learning as we go. And part of the problem is that, we've only been having this conversation, it feels like, for like less than a year, right? And the technology is evolving much quicker than we're adapting to it. And so I don't think there really is a blueprint, because we're all playing catch up at this point. There's a couple of different risk points I think the businesses need to be looking at. I think you need to look, number one, kind of internally in terms of what your people are doing with AI, or with what your people are doing with AI. So that's how are people using AI to perform their job functions for you, right? That's risk point number one. And I think risk point number two is the people that you contract with. Like, how are they using AI, and what does that mean for you? We just saw that play out earlier this week in a piece of litigation in federal court in California, where Workday was sued for discrimination. Workday, not the employer of the individual that was suing them. They're the vendor that was, collecting the resumes and sending them to their customers for jobs that Workday was listing. And Workday's argument, which I thought was a compelling one, is, look, Title VII covers employers. We're not the employer here. And so how can we be liable for discrimination to a job applicant that we're not hiring? We're gathering data and we're passing it on to our customers, to our clients, who are making the interview, don't interview, hire, don't hire decisions based on the interview that we're passing on. And the plaintiff in that case said, yeah, but your clients are relying on your discriminatory algorithms. And as their agent, you are liable under Title VII. And the court, at least on Workday's motion to dismiss, sided with the plaintiff and said, we think the plaintiff is right. You're the agent of the employer here, and you're just as liable as they are. And it's your data, your algorithm. And so we'll let them take some discovery and see how discriminatory your algorithms actually are, and whether your algorithms actually are screening out Black applicants and disabled applicants and older applicants. So it's a fascinating case.
Sure.
And as we talk about kind of potential kind of pressure points of risk, that's one of the big ones for employers, is kind of what data are you relying on to make decisions. And if there's AI that is crunching that data for you, have you vetted whether that AI's kind of interpretation of that data or manipulation of that data does have or could have, a disparate impact based on race, sex, age, disability,
Sure.
Fill in your protected class.
It's interesting. The reason I asked you if there is a blueprint, I kind of knew how could there possibly be a blueprint when we're seeing case law developing before our very eyes. It's also fluid. But I did ask because I came across a website of a firm who does this kind of work. It says we have the blueprint. And I thought, well, it's either kind of hubristic or a little bit of a marketing
It's marketing
play.
It's marketing fluff.
Yeah, so I figured it was worth asking.
Yeah, I mean, we are all learning in real time, and the federal agencies, to their credit, have done a pretty good job trying to get out in front of this issue. The EEOC has done a symposium or two on AI. And its implication under equal employment opportunity laws. The Department of Labor has put out some publications on kind of AI risks that employers need to consider under like wage and hour laws. So there's to their credit, I think the federal government sometimes tends to react a little too slowly to these things. Here, I think the agencies have done a really good job trying to get out in front of these issues to make employers aware of what the potential HR or employment law risks are here.
Yeah, I think there are sort of two parallel levels of risk with all this. Sort of the employment law risk in hiring and all this, mitigating bias, and then of course, can government legislate in a way where AI doesn't become this existential risk, which is obviously that's the thornier and more difficult.
Does the Terminator turn from
Yes.
fiction to fact? That's the part that troubled me when I started thinking about AI the most, and why I stayed away from it and didn't want to get involved in it. And then, much like AI, it's evolve or die. And if lawyers are using AI to streamline their practices and provide better, quicker, less, more cost-effective services for their clients, and I'm not, where does that leave me? Potentially unemployed, right? So I decided I needed to learn how to use AI and adopt and adapt it into my practice. And to get back to your question of kind of how are we regulating this? It's a real concern because right now it's really not. And when you think about the people who are going to be regulating it, turn on C-SPAN and watch a congressional hearing on, Facebook, and you understand how little our Congress understands about technology issues when they can't even form a question around like how Facebook uses, tracks and uses user data. They can't even wrap their mind around that. And now we're asking them to wrap their mind around and actually legislate, a neural network to prevent it from becoming sentient and taking over the world. It's really scary.
It is. By the way, we just put out first X-Files, AIX files. We're pronouncing AIX, by the way, X-Files newsletter. And in it, we have a poll. What is your PDOOM score? Which, as you know, it's sort of you're assigning existential risk to AI from very low, not a problem, been here before, to very, very high. It's time to get your papers in order.
Mine, I'm trying to stay away from the news because that seems to increase my score exponentially.
Yes.
So ask me again after November how I feel about our potential doom factor.
By the way, interesting. It's very early. We just put out the newsletter earlier today, and there are 4 levels: very low, low, high, very high. And right now, it's either very low or very high. very few are in the middle. It's
And
interesting.
that's probably based on whether you're an R or a D. I'm guessing. I'm guessing the R's are on the low side and the D's are on the high side. That would be my guess.
Could well be. Could well be. Although, if you're on the low side, it doesn't necessarily mean you're low information, or if you're high, it doesn't mean you are a so-called high information.
Oh
You
no,
know what I mean?
I
So,
think it's how you process the information. I think
yes,
if you really believe we're headed towards a second Trump term, and that's what it's starting to look like here. It's looked that way for a while. Um,
we're going to
you
have to
know,
take
you're
that conversation offline, John, but yes.
okay. No, I'm just saying though, your comfort level with that in terms of what that means on the doom and gloom scale probably feels. I mean, it's not an informational thing. It's just your comfort level with the direction you see things headed, and some people are going to feel more comfortable than others with that, the way things are headed. So
That's why we're doing this podcast and we're doing the newsletter and AIX, just trying to sort through it and get people like you coming at it from different perspectives, technology, legal, et cetera, because nobody has the answers. I don't know that even together we're going to be able to crowdsource anything here, but we're going to certainly try. How should businesses approach transparency and explainability of AI systems to reduce legal risk?
I mean, it's again, you have to approach this, I think, from two different directions. There's kind of the internal comms and the external comms. And I think on the internal comms, I think you need to be having discussions with your teams about who's using AI, how are they using AI, and what does that mean for the work product that's being produced? I think number one, but then externally, I think you want to be transparent with your customers too. And if you're allowing your marketing teams, for example, to, create copy using ChatGPT, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that your customers should know what they're paying for. And I think that you should, somewhere in your terms of service, you need to let them know, like, and yes, and we might, we might be using generative AI to create, some of the work product to help us create the work product that that you're paying for. I think transparency with the customer so they know the value they're paying for, I think is vital.
What role do you think AI, sort of blue skying things here, what role do you think AI will play in future labor negotiations, collective bargaining processes, dispute resolution? Have you thought about some of those things?
Yeah, I have. I think where you're going to see AI make the biggest change is in the commoditization of legal work, or where legal work can be commoditized. So whether that's analyze this collective bargaining agreement or analyze these, I mean, there's so much you can do with ChatGPT, right? So, here's a spreadsheet of wages and, analyze these by position and, compare it to, the expected rate of pay for those positions in this geography, and tell me what you would recommend as pay scales, right, for these jobs. I mean, that's something that ChatGPT can do, right? And so in terms of its ability to work quickly with data and do things like that, I think it has the potential to be incredibly helpful. I think from my perspective, I think we're not at the point yet where generative AI is going to be able to replace any legal professional, any HR professional in their current job function. I think the product is still, I mean, we're still at the alpha kind of release of what these products can do, even though we're, ChatGPT is now on release, 4.0, which I think is probably release 5 or 6 at this point. It's still really new. And it gets better and better with each release, and it can do more and more with each release, but it's not at the point yet where it can think for itself, and it's still going to need humans to guide it. And there are, the people who are really, really good at getting good results out of these GPTs know how to, know and understand prompt engineering. That is kind of, what do you type in to get the result you want? And there's both an art and a science to doing that. And so there is going to be a continued demand for legal professionals, HR professionals, labor relations professionals, across the board. I think the demand will start to focus on those professionals who understand, obviously, their field of expertise and know how to use this generative AI to help them get better results quicker. And I think that's where we're headed. So whether it's, in making hiring decisions or, or drafting policies or documents for the workplace, or analyzing a bargaining proposal, or drafting a provision for a collective bargaining agreement, or whatever your need is going to be, I think the GPTs are going to be able to do that for us, but it's going to need people that are trained in how to maximize the efficiency of using that product. So I think the focus should be right now should be on if AI is something that you in your business want to embrace and use. And I think we all should be, because I think there'll become a point in time 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 36 months from now, 60 months from now, I don't know when, but there'll become a point in time soon where those that don't are going to be left behind. It's hard to imagine now, doing anything without email. 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. 30 years ago, when I started my legal practice, now 27 years ago, I still remember getting, having the rolled up fax, roll off the machine and roll under the hutch, right? And you had to go get on your all fours and look for the rolled up piece of paper under the, under the desk. And we had email, but we also had the rolled up piece of paper from the fax machine.
Right.
Now it's hard to imagine doing anything it's hard to imagine there was a time before email. We're going to get to the point soon, because this technology is evolving so quickly. We're going to get to the point soon where it's going to be hard to imagine a time before there was generative AI. So the time to learn how to use it is now,
Yes.
before it becomes so ubiquitous that if you don't use it, you're perceived as the dinosaur, which is not a great look for a business.
I've had, as I'm sure you've had, many conversations about AI, and there were some people, you go back to that PDOOM number or self-assessment. And some people say, and a lot of people say, that it's cyclical. Disruptive technologies come and we adapt, and people get, or they retrain and they move into other areas, and we're resilient and everything's fine and dandy. But I think this is a real sea change, to the extent that previous technologies, for the most part, changed how we did things. AI changes the way we think.
Yeah.
Right. And even takes on some of those cognitive functions, those intellectual functions.
I think you're right. And I think that's the part that people are having the hardest time grappling with here. And I think it's what scares people is, yes, Google was a paradigm shift, right? Being able to have, right. The iPhone was a paradigm shift, right? Having, something that is exponentially more powerful than the computing force of what it took to land someone on the moon in your pocket. That is a sea change for people. The difference is with AI is that it's not just a new technology, but it's a new technology that is eventually going to become independent of human control to think for itself. And that is, when we talk about like paradigm changing, I mean, that is the ultimate power. That is the ultimate paradigm change. That's the sci-fi stuff
that's species change.
Yeah, that is a change to how humanity is going to interact on this planet, when we have computers that can think and do for themselves without human interaction. And that's probably coming sooner than we think at the pace at which this stuff is evolving.
I was going to ask you what concerns you most and what should organizations be most concerned about, but I think we kind of touched on that. I think we did a pretty good job of that. If there's anything you want to add, by all means, but maybe we should actually flip the script a little bit and end on a cheerier note about AI and the law and what's coming.
Are you saying that a sentient robot coming back from the future to kill the person that wants to take it out before it's developed is not rosy and cheery?
Well, it sounds like a very good movie.
It sounds like
I'd
a
go
great
see
movie.
that movie.
I'd see that and its sequel. I'd stop after the first sequel, though.
Yes, I think so. Because I don't think there's going to be another one. I think that's it. So you can't leave us with anything positive, John? Is that too big of a challenge?
No, I'm excited. I mean, I was, if you would have asked me 6 months ago where I was on AI, I was 100% doom and gloom. It scares me. I think we need to heavily regulate it. We need to put the brakes on its development. I don't want, I don't want Arnold Schwarzenegger, coming back from the future to, take out humanity. I've done as close to a 180 as I think I could possibly do on the power and the possibilities that artificial intelligence presents. I've dug in to ChatGPT. I'm learning how to use it. Really impressed with what it can do. It's an incredibly powerful tool that I think everybody should learn how to use it and harness the power that it can offer to you to help you do your job better and more efficiently. And I'm excited to see what the next iteration of it looks like. 4.0 can do a ton. It can really do a ton to help you streamline how you do your job, to get into information and get out quickly. Still got to vet and make sure what you're reading is accurate. But right. It's done a really, really good job of it does a really, really good job of getting you in and getting you out to complete tasks for you. And they say the next version, again, you're making kind of exponential leaps from version to version. And so they say the next version is going to severely cut down on the hallucinations. Right now, I think the numbers I've read anywhere from kind of 20 to 30% of information, as you dig in, could potentially not be true. They're saying the next version, if I'm remembering the numbers right, is going to be something like 2 to 3%, which is a vast improvement. And so I'm really, really excited to see this technology keep developing. And I'm excited to, kind of get in on it now and see how it can help me in my legal practice develop as well. So.
Yeah.
So no, not all doom and gloom at all. I am positive on the future of AI, and I was not always of that mindset. So.
All right. So that's progress. I may want to have you on several months down the road. Let's see how things change, if they do. By the way, I'm going to have to start using a disclaimer on these podcasts that no AI chatbots were abused in the creation of the questions for this interview. I think I'm gonna have to start using that. Anyway, John, I really do appreciate this. I appreciate your time, your insights as always.
Absolutely. It's always great to talk to you.
Same. Jon Hyman joined us today from Cleveland, Ohio, the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. John, I also know that there's a very, very, very good, well-known deli in Cleveland, and a good friend of mine who relocated there and has been living there for about 10 years keeps telling me I need to go to. Does that ring a bell? There's
a Slyman's Deli, which is very well known, which is
famous
for their gigantic corned beef sandwiches. So if you're a fan of, 2 pounds of meat between some rye bread, Slyman's corned beef sandwiches are outstanding. So
okay, well, now that there's no Carnegie Deli in New York, and I do owe my friend a visit, and when I do visit, I'm gonna
please
look
do.
You up, John.
I will take you out for one of our fine craft beers here in the Cleveland area.
You know what? That sounds like a deal. I'm going to have to move that up in the bucket list. So
perfect.
Yes, indeed. Again, Jon is the leader of the Employment and Labor Practice Group at Wickens Herzer Panza. And as I said, he joined us today from Cleveland, Ohio. This is Charles Epstein for the AI X Factor podcast. Thank you so much for listening.